So let's squeeze in something particularly important up front here. And Tom, thank you for the opportunity to do this. And that is Breaking Bad. Now you're going to say, this guy is talking about a television show that came out in 2008. This guy is 13 years late to the party. And you would be correct. That is some good math. 13 years ago, many people told me to watch Breaking Bad. Said it's an amazing show. Two of my brothers begged me to watch it. And I get this weird hang up where the more something is hyped, the less I want to do anything about it. The more you tell me I got to do something, the less I want to do it. So 13 years after the fact, my treadmill show, my go-to, is now Breaking Bad. And I'm 3 seasons in, so no spoilers. And in the 3rd season, if you know the show, who not by like digital hand, but like sticking a hand in the air. Okay. All right. So, okay. And you're fans, you didn't tolerate Breaking Bad. You didn't suffer through Breaking Bad with your significant other. You liked the show. So you might remember, as I just discovered on the treadmill the other day, season 3, about midway through, Saul Goodman, attorney to the stars, advises Jesse Pinkman, scumbag drug dealer, that he should buy a nail salon. Do you remember this scene? And Jesse's like, you want me to buy a nail salon? You want me to buy a nail salon so I can pay taxes? And Saul Goodman says, no, I want you to buy a nail salon so you can properly launder money. Now that might be part of the spirit behind those who buy small businesses. Maybe they want to buy a nail salon or a car wash or a hamburger joint so they can launder money. What really jumped out to me in that scene was the targeted sale price of $312,000. That jumped out at me because I know that to be about the median sale price for a small business in the US. And in actuality, after the first quarter this year, that number is closer to 350. 350, you say? 350, up 30% over the same quarter, the first quarter of 2020, before we were all shut down. And why might that be? Well, we'll talk about that. What was cool was the writers of Breaking Bad understood what a small business like a nail salon might sell for, but most people don't. Most people, I tell them what I do, and they either politely nod. I'm a business broker, and they go, wow, fascinating. How about this weather we're having? Or they level with me and say, what is that? Oh, it's the valuation and sale of small companies. I help folks who have kids that don't want the business and employees that can't afford the business find a third party to buy the business. I call it door number 3. Door number 3 is a private sale. Oh, wow. Doing a bunch of $10 million deals, are we? And I say, no. If you added up all the deals I've done in the last couple of years, 3 years, I don't know, it wouldn't tally $10 million. People don't realize that most small business sales it's the passing over of a lifestyle buy a job opportunity from one person to another. Now, I don't know much about nail salons. I've never been in one, never valued one, never been party to the sale of one. But I know this, they're very typical. If you go on bizbuysell.com, bizbuysell.com, you're going to find yourself some nail salons. You're going to find yourself some ice cream shops and some barber shops and some pizza joints. And those, if you take the median sale price of those types of little businesses, those companies, it's going to come out in the 3s. And why is that? Because the earnings are what they are and the multiples are what they are. So I don't know if you caught the headline for today. What do you mean my business is only going to sell for 2.28 times earnings? What is that? I heard I could sell my business for 4 or 5 times income. 2.28, where does that come from? Well, that's a legit stat over, think of last decade. It goes back further than that, but if you think of last decade, you think of the 2010s, the median sale price or the median multiple of the earnings being 2.28. These are businesses where somebody makes $100,000 to $150,000 and somebody agrees to give them 2-ish times that. Now we're talking median. So there are scads of examples, tens of thousands of examples of businesses that sell for peanuts. But if you take that core example, the core example is, think of a business, think of somebody paying themselves like 80 grand and they run their car through the business and they run their insurance through the business and their kids' cell phones and they tack on some personal travel. They find a way to cleverly minimize their tax exposure. Yes, John Farrell. And they want credit for that, which is fine. So let's say it's an $80,000 salary. Let's say there's a $40,000 net income. And let's say there's a 20 grand of stuff, goodies. You're at about $140,000. We'll do the quick math. And I did on my morning walk. I didn't check this, but maybe you could check me on this. 140 times 2.25, right? You're going to be about 300K. And that's very, very typical. Now, my concentration, for what it's worth for our few minutes together here today, is on industrial and contractual type, construction type businesses. So think of manufacturers, distributorships, and the trades. Very typical. Somebody's making something, shipping something, installing something, fixing something. Very blue collar. And these businesses, like other businesses, are seeing higher sale prices in 2021. And there are reasons for that. And I'm, like I said, low tech. I mean, if we need it, I've got some markers and I got a slice of paper on I had to shut off the AC, by the way. So if I start sweating bullets, you're going to understand why, because my piece of paper was getting sucked into the HVAC closet. But if we need them. And I did come up with some visuals. I've never hosted a Zoom. I've never shared a screen. We're like 15 months into this. I just got that little camera right there. So not that experienced with this kind of thing, but I thought I would give you, if it's helpful, 4 things that acquirers of businesses are looking for. And because of the times, the reason why sale prices are up 30%. And another stat, by the way, another stat that's complicated enough where I'm going to have to read it to you. The NFIB, Small Business Optimism Score, is, get this, and explain it to me, please, that it's at the highest point in 40 years. The net percent of owners raising their asking sale price is up 10 points to 36%. I hope that sounds impressive and meaningful. I'm still trying to figure out what it means. I think what it means is that people are recognizing that there's a lot of demand out there for small businesses, and they can ask for more money for their business. And so it's probably the multiples have graduated from a median point of 2.28 to, in 2021, maybe 2.5, maybe 3, maybe higher. It always falls between 1 and 5. You're multiplying adjusted earnings. Remember that you got somebody, they have their compensation, they have their goodies, they have their net income, and then you multiply that by something, right? That something is always between 1 and 5, and that's the kind of the glib answer. What is this thing worth? Somebody will ask me on a phone call, what's it going to be worth? And I said, not sure. Got to figure out two things. What are your adjusted earnings? And what are we multiplying that by? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? 1 and 5 are extraordinarily rare. Almost everything falls between 2 and 4. And these days, it's not uncommon at all to see folks getting paid 3 times their adjusted earnings for their little business. And I'm not talking about, and by the way, this is going to sound smart alecky. I can't really help that. I'm not talking about people, in my personal experience, these past few years, I'm not talking about the person that had a bad week and told their boss just where to shove it. I'm not talking about the corporate type, the person that turns 50 and says, the window's closing. This is my moment. Take this job and shove it. Take my 401k and liquidate it. Get my mother-in-law on the phone, because dadgummit, I'm going to go out and buy myself a little business, and I'm going to control the schedule, and I'm going to make as much money as I want. I'm going to take all the time off that I please. Not talking about that. I'm talking about industry and private equity buyers. Those that are buying their competitors, those that are buying tangentially related businesses, and small, very small private equity people, funds, firms that are buying recurring revenue. They're buying revenue that'll never go away. Things that'll never go out of fashion. And there's 4 big reasons. So literal highlights. I made some slides and I did some highlighting. I hope it helps. Now this is backwards to me. What does it look like to you? What does that say? Somebody help me out. Tom, help me out.
That's forwards. That looks good.
It's forwards, right? And it says, okay, so labor. So I helped a family sell an irrigation company a few years ago, and I'll never forget this line. The oldest brother, I said to him, Mark, is it hard to find help? And he said, nope, it's hard to find good help. And that will always stick with me. The trades especially are jonesing for good help, for good quality, reliable, loyal labor. And somebody, just this morning, somebody used the term with me, acqui-hire. Now, this is somebody who probably watches Shark Tank and has heard Mark Cuban say acqui-hire. If you haven't heard him say that, or if you haven't looked that up before, you're basically buying an opportunity to bring people, folks onto your team. Reason number 2 that I'm seeing, and I'm looking forward in a couple minutes here to any other comments or questions or what have you, territory. So I am I'm proudly in possession. This is going to sound like a humble brag, and I can't really help that. I'm sorry. This is a redacted, see, I blocked out the logo, countersigned letter of intent for one HVAC and plumbing shop on this side of the bridge who's acquiring one on the other side, the Cape side of the bridge, because it sits exactly where they're trying to grow their territory. Their main operation is on this side of the bridge. They bought a center Cape operation maybe 2 years ago. My client's shop sits right in between. So they're expanding territory. They're picking up labor for sure. Reason number 3, they also have the money. They have the funding to put to use. These are folks that are willing to pay a 3 or 4 times multiple of adjusted earnings because they have, as we all probably can identify with, money that just isn't really doing much of anything. At least some allotted funds, earmarked money that isn't doing very much or isn't growing, sitting in the bank. Unless Tom Kilgallen is putting it to work, right? Unless Karen McCloskey is saying, here's how we're going to realize 6, 8, 10%. They're putting that money to work with acquisitions. And so I'm working with a private equity firm that is made a decent offer on my client's commercial landscaping business, and wish me luck tomorrow afternoon. We're going to try to make our best final case for why it should be just a skosh higher a skosh. That's not, hopefully that's not going to be too demanding. Fourth and final reason that I'm seeing, of the four major reasons that I'm seeing that folks would rationalize a higher multiple than they did last decade, frankly, and I tried 3 times to fit this on one line: diversification. I will not show, I'm not going to show you, Beth, you can't get it out of me. It's not going to happen. I failed miserably trying to write that straight across, but diversification, what they're looking to do, a lot of folks, is figure out a way to add new lines of service offering, new lines of revenue. Great lesson yesterday, then I'll be quiet. Conference call, a Zoom actually, with a client of mine and the 2 heads of a decent sized firm about moving in the direction of them making an offer. And I asked the best question, maybe Greg will agree with me here. What's the best question we can ask? How do you value an opportunity? Like, how do you look at opportunities? What metrics do you use? And I was ready. Johnny on the spot was ready with some of my evidence for, I think I could make a case for the recurring revenue portion of my client's HR services business. I won't bog you down. At 1.5, I had examples of anywhere between 0.5 and 1.5 times revenue. I don't get a lot of opportunities where we're talking multiples of revenue. It's almost always earnings. And I said to the 2 of them, and the CEO said, well, we've made a couple of acquisitions in recent years, and what we're seeing these days is 2 to 4 times revenue. Now, my client's little bitty business is not going to get, if she can get 2 times her recurring revenue, she's done extraordinarily well. The best example I could find was 1.5. Now, are they rationalizing? Are they willing to pay a premium? Are they taking metrics from bigger deals and they're willing to, even on the low end, willing to apply it to my client's little business? I don't know. We're going to find out next week. Hopefully that gives you some sense of, unless you do this work directly, you may not know that these are the kinds of conversations that are having in the very small sector. If I didn't make that clear, I only do itty bitty deals.